Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm coming to you from editing again to do a quick intro. This is episode 3 with my dad, Mike Pilot. We again filmed this in January. It was like the second or third thing that we filmed, so we didn't do a proper intro, so I just wanted to jump on here and introduce him and this episode. After this one, I hopefully won't be doing this anymore. We got a little bit more organized and we did our introductions in real time when we were interviewing whomever we were interviewing. The audio again in this one is a little rough. My dad has a very low, raspy voice. I would recommend listening with earbuds or AirPods, but again, there's always subtitles if you are having a hard time hearing. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and letting us figure things out in real time. It gets better from here. And yeah, we hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening/watching. Enjoy.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm a little nervous being on camera. I haven't done this in a while.
Okay. Remember, watch your shoe.
I can't wash my shoe and talk to you at the same time. That would look weird.
Okay, so tell the audience who you are.
My name is Mike, and I am Lindsay's father, Tina's husband. They are the producers and the stars of this podcast series that I've been invited to. I'm very excited to be on the show today. This is a first for me. A little nervous about what kind of questions are going to come up. What else do you want to know about me?
Where are you from? Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Nashua, New Hampshire, but I was adopted at the age of 3 months and moved to Keene with my mom and dad. And I lived there in Keene, New Hampshire all through high school and during the summers while I went to college at UNH. And I left New Hampshire and Keene when I graduated from UNH and went to New York to start work for GE, and didn't come back to New Hampshire again permanently until 2015 when I retired from GE after 31 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a sister, Debbie. She's a year younger than me, and a brother, Peter, who's 6 years younger than me. Mm-hmm. Debbie lives in New Hampshire. She lives in the same town that I live in now, in Dover. Peter lives in Massachusetts.
So yesterday we interviewed your mom and dad, and they shared with us their journey of trying to have children, struggling with that, and then getting a call from the Catholic Charities, and you, they said, were one of the greatest gifts of their lives.
You know what they said to me about you? In that podcast, that you forgot to turn on their microphone.
Shh. Grammy did say that. She said that the greatest gift of her life was holding you for the first time.
Mm.
Yeah, that the concept of being adopted, I've always known since I could know. Like, I can't remember ever not knowing that I was adopted.
They said that. They said that they never wanted you guys to not know.
No, and they made us feel like we were really special and unique because we were adopted. You know, like, and that's the way we would talk about it in school. Like, you know, people would ask me, you know, like my heritage or something like that. I said, I don't know that I was adopted. And like the teachers would sometimes go, oh, okay. And I was like, no, it's really awesome. And I would talk about how special I felt, how special I thought I was, because I was the adopted kid, right? And somebody actually picked me, right? They had a choice of whether to take me or not, and they picked me. And I'm sure I've told you this story, Lindsay, but my mom used to say a poem to us every night when at bedtime, and she would say it. I can't do it without choking up even to this day. She'd say, "Not flesh of my flesh, not bone of my bone, but still miraculously my own. Never forget for a single minute, you didn't grow under my heart, you grew in it." And that, I mean, the first time I heard that was 63 years ago, and I still remember it word for word today. And I don't know when she stopped putting me to bed, but even after she stopped putting me to bed, she'd still say that poem every once in a while. And it just, I think that really kind of captured for me anyway, how special um, it was, the relationship between me and my parents, and how much it meant to my parents to be able to have a child that they had tried really hard, and my mother always talked about it was meant to be. You were meant to be matched with us, and it was like a dream come true. And she has talked about it being a great gift, and for me, for sure, it's like winning the lottery. You know, to be born to an unwed, very young mother who, thank God, made the choice to bring me into the world. She didn't have to, and she went through a lot of personal sacrifice to do that. She was living in Manchester, and this was 1962 Catholic world, right? She was pregnant, and you didn't become pregnant out of wedlock in 1962, especially if you were Catholic. And so her family took her out of school and moved her to a home for unwed mothers in Nashua, next town over. And she stayed there until she gave birth to me. And so that was luck number one. But then luck number two is like hitting the lottery, having my mom and dad be my parents. Like what a great gift that was, you know, to end up with them. Like, holy cow, what a game changer that was.
And
that's where I could have gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Your mom said yesterday that there was a social worker that would come. She would just like drop in and surprise them and visit and check on you guys. And there was one time she came and you were playing like on the floor or something, and she was like, oh, and Grammy was like, what? What's wrong? And she goes, we never give a brown-eyed baby to two blue-eyed parents.
Oh.
Because they were so specific about how they would match them up. Like they really wanted it to be like, this is could be your child.
She's told me that story before. Yeah, she thought they were going to take me away.
Yeah, she was panicked.
She goes,
in
well,
that
are you going
moment.
to take him? And she said no. But it was just so unheard of. So it really was meant to be.
Right, it sure was.
And your sister's adopted too.
She is, yeah. She was adopted about a year after I was. She was a little bit older. I think she was 6 months old when she was adopted.
And you were?
I was 3 months old. And so I was just a very young baby. We were both in foster care.
Yeah.
And we were adopted through the Catholic Charities. They provided the service to match a parent seeking to adopt and a child who had been offered up for adoption. So I obviously I don't remember anything about that time or that place, but I have to believe that I was in a loving, caring, nice environment because of how awesome I turned out.
Right. Nothing to do with my grandparents.
Has being adopted, has that played a role like in your adult life, and has it always been in your mind, like I'm adopted? Like has it played a role for you?
I don't think about it that way. Like it doesn't cross my consciousness on a regular basis at all. Like I it's just an aspect of my life that's true. But when I do stop to think about it or get asked a question like that one, I know that in my lifetime, my relationships have been very important. Friends and people who were close to me, my family, and I wonder if that's a function of, you know, going through that early, you know, disconnect, but then finding a connection and being connected. And I haven't always been as great about that as I have wanted to be, but it's always been something that's been on my mind. I even when I don't maybe show it as much, the thought of the relationships is always something that's really important to me.
Yeah. Do you think that, because you were saying that you always felt really special and really lucky that you were picked,
Yeah.
I feel like with adopted kids, a lot of the time it can like negatively impact their
Right.
confidence and their what they think of themselves.
Yeah.
Do you think that it positively impacted yours?
Positively impacted me for sure. Yeah, like I have always thought of myself as kind of special For sure. But I don't mean the way you're laughing at me. But I could be accused of that too, for sure. But because of the adoption thing, like I've always felt special, lucky, like had an advantage, right?
Yeah.
Because of that situation. Yeah, for sure. That's always been part of my thinking, for sure.
Which is interesting because I feel like thinking about other people that I know that are adopted, I don't think that they could all say the same.
Yeah, I I haven't talked to Debbie about it in a long time. I I don't know how she would respond to that question today. Maybe when you get her on the show,
We can
ask
ask.
her that, right? It'd be interesting to hear
Yeah.
her current thoughts. But I remember when we were in high school, um, and my parents had always said from since I can remember, they had talked about our birth parents in the most loving and grateful terms possible, right? That they brought us into this world and really through a moment of deep introspection and honesty and putting our welfare first, decided they couldn't provide the kind of care for us that we were going to need, so they offered us up to a family who would. And that's how my birth parents have always been described to me by my mom and dad. And so I grew up grateful for that and for them. But so they always encouraged us, if you ever want to go find your birth parents, we are all about that. Like we will do
Right.
anything we can to help you. We'll support that. We'll drive you anywhere. And they were always really supportive of that. And Debbie really wanted to do it, and I didn't. And we used to fight about it. And she had a natural curiosity of wanting to meet her birth parents, people who brought her into this world,
Like when you were growing up.
when we were growing up, when we were in high school, especially, right? And we used to fight about it. I said, Debbie, why do you want to do that to mom and dad?
And you have different birth parents.
Different birth parents, yeah. We were from different families, yep. So she wanted to do it. I didn't. I tried to talk her out of it. She never actually did during those years.
Right. Later in life, she
yeah,
has.
right.
Yes.
But not during those years. And it was just like we had different points of view on that, and I felt no real need to know. You know, I didn't feel any need to connect, and I didn't feel any particular connection to them. And it came back into my world in a powerful way when we got pregnant with you, and when you arrived, and we like I'm thinking, okay, I'm about to be biologically connected to the first person in my lifetime, right? And when you start thinking about what does that mean, like what am I going to be able to share with you about your health history? What kind of traits are possibly being handed down through genes, right, to you, and so I started becoming a little bit more curious about my birth parents because of that. And then while we were pregnant, the Catholic Charities reached out to my mom and said, "Are you the parents of Michael Pilot?" She said, "Yes, we are." She said, "Well, we've been contacted in a probate type matter of someone who wants to reach Michael." So my mom called me, and I was 37 years old, and got the call from my mom that this was going on, and I said, "Probate? Sounds like a will. Maybe somebody's leaving me money." But she said, "I have a phone number and a contact," and they said, "If you'd like to call and follow up on this, then to do it, and if you don't want to do it, then you don't have to do it." And I said, "Well, Mom, what do you think I should do?" She said, "Oh, you should call him. You should do it." Because my mother has always, but both of my parents, but particularly my mother, has always wanted to meet my birth mother. She wanted to know, where I came. She wanted to thank her. She wanted to tell her that I did a good job taking care of your baby, and all that stuff. And so she was really curious. And your mom at the time was working for an adoption agency.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Yep. And we were talking about this, and she said, "Would you like to come and talk to one of the social workers about this?" I said, "That's a great idea." So we did. We made an appointment to go talk to one of her coworkers, who was a social worker, and we went to talk to her about what I should do, and she sat there just like this, and she had a legal pad on her lap, and she was asking me questions about, both of us questions about our family, about how adoption, like my Debbie's adopted, Yvonne was adopted, Ginny was natural childbirth, Peter's natural childbirth, and she tried like, tell me about your parents, Yvonne, tell me about your parents, Mike, drawing something on this paper the whole time. And we go through this for about as good solid 10 or 15 minutes, and we don't know what she's doing, just like this. And then she turns the thing around, and she's got a diagram of our family tree with all the interconnected relationships that will be impacted because there's an exposure to adoption. And if I go explore this, how it could open up feelings and thoughts for way more than just me, right? And it was like, wow. And it was like really impactful because I know your mom's parents didn't like to talk about it, and they weren't supportive of her finding anything about her history. Like they just would rather not do that.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad were totally the opposite, right?
My mom is also adopted, for the listener.
Yes. Yeah.
So
what'd you decide to do?
well, so at the end of that that session, the social work said, I've got 2 books that I want to recommend to you. And one of them was written by she was a New York Times journalist and an excellent writer, and she was adopted. And she wrote the story of, she was 20, whatever, 8, working for the Times, living in Manhattan. And she was adopted and had always kind of gone through, should I look or what? But never really was able to come up with anything to animate or motivate her to do it. And one day there's a knock on her apartment door. She opened up, it was her birth father. Out of the blue.
Wow.
Yeah. And she repulsed and felt violated at first, but she talked about the story of how she worked through that and ended up building a beautiful relationship with her birth father. It took years, but they did it, right? It was a really good book. And then the other book was written by a woman who was Catholic in New England in 1962 and got pregnant. She was young and unwed, and she was moved to a home for unwed mothers where she had her child, was never allowed to see the child. They put a sheet up over so you can't see the child, can't touch or hold the child.
That's so common, you hear that.
Right? And the child was taken away from her, and she always had kind of what she described it as a hole in her heart of, what happened to her. She went on to marry and have her own family, a beautiful family, but she always wondered. And she talked in a really compelling way about how that had been a hole in her life and how it always had been an unfulfilled thing, and it always been a source of kind of sorrow and wonder she didn't know. And that one impacted me. I was like, okay, if you're really grateful to this woman who brought you into the world, you owe her that, right? You owe her to find her and say, I'm okay, I'm better than okay, I've had a wonderful life, and thank you for that. And so that was what convinced me. Reading that book convinced me to reach out to the Catholic charities and eventually get connected with my birth mother. And do you know what I learned? It was the same exact story where she came up, she never held me, she never saw me, and when she's telling me the story, she used almost the same exact words as this author saying, I've had kind of a hole in my heart my whole life, wondering what happened to you. And it was so fulfilling for her to just know that I had lived a great life up to that point and was happy and healthy and had beautiful, loving parents that took great care of me. Right? It was really meaningful for her to have that knowledge. Yeah.
I was going to say, the way that you described the book, it sounds like she could have written it.
So, Lindsay, it's funny you say that because as I'm reading this book, I thought up until they revealed the identity of the guy, there were pictures, I thought, oh my God, this could be her.
Yeah.
I really honestly did. I was like, this could be her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was the same exact period of time, Catholic, New England, and it was my story, our story, and it was just an interesting experience to go through.
So what was it like meeting her?
So it was really interesting. You grow up adopted. One of the things you do think about a lot, one of the things I have thought about a lot, I've talked to you about this a bunch, you wonder what makes me me. right? And I look at my mom and dad, I look at my brother and sister, right? Like, I'm not like any of them. I'm really not, you know? So you think, okay, who made me? There's gotta be, um,
Nature versus nurture.
nature, nurture, you know, what's the dominant thing? And for me, I said, it's gotta be the nurture stuff, because I was, you know, brought up by these wonderful parents, and they gave me all the good qualities that to the extent I have any, that
They gave you a few. Yeah, they gave you a few.
You gotta give them the credit, right? But so I always wrote it off to that, right? But then meeting this woman, there was a physical resemblance. She has our forehead. She was short,
Mm.
short but athletically built. She had to be, I don't know, in her 60s, I guess. I was 37, 47. No, she was in her early 50s, because she was 15.
Right, she was 15.
Right. And I could see a physical resemblance that was striking, and I had never felt that with another person.
Yeah.
I could see, you know, like, oh my God, I look at you,
Mm-hmm.
you're my family, and I can see it, and I can feel it just by looking at you,
Mhm.
right? And people see us together, and they say, oh, that's different,
Mhm.
that's her, you know, and that's what I felt. For
Mhm.
the first time ever, I felt that,
Yeah.
but it wasn't deeper than that. Like, the personality wasn't me.
You weren't like, this is my mom.
No, I had no feeling like that at all. Like,
It was just like this.
it's a person who played
Made
a role
me.
in my life, and I really didn't have any desire after that to have a relationship with her. I tried to stay in touch. She was hard to stay in touch with. Like, she wasn't great on email and how to communicate. It was her. She had gone on to marry and had 2 children that were 10 years younger than me, and it was a boy and a girl. And the girl, my would-be half-sister, was the one who wanted to find me when she found out that I was in the world. And the way that came out is kind of an interesting story. Her husband got a call out of the blue that he had fathered a child in Vietnam when he was a U.S. soldier stationed over there, and his daughter found him and made contact with him. He had never told his wife, my birth mother,
Yeah.
that she had never told him that I
Oh,
existed.
wow.
Right.
What a
Wow.
moment that must have been.
This came about, and he, when he got separation, shared with my birth mother what had happened. She shared her story with him, and then she told her children about me, and that had never been out before. And when my half-sister found out, she was the one who put everything in motion to go try to find me. Yeah.
I always say to my friends whenever we're talking about adoption, and they're like, that must be so weird. Like, you're not related to anyone in your family, or like with Patrick. But I'm always like, no, I feel like it's so much weirder for the kids of your birth parents.
Yeah.
That went on to have like a family with those as their parents and
Right.
siblings, to find out we actually have a half brother that's 10 years
I
older.
agree with you.
That was like a random one night stand, and
Yeah.
he's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that would be way.
Weirder than finding out that you're adopted.
Yeah, it must create like a lot of mystery and just like unanswered, unfulfilled, questions in their life.
Yeah.
Well,
But did you meet any of your half siblings?
I
Okay.
did. I got invited to things like family reunions and stuff like that. I said, I'm not going to do it. I honestly, it's probably not nice to say this, but I just really didn't have a desire for relationships with those people. I wasn't pulled to it. I wasn't compelled to it.
You didn't
I
feel
didn't
it.
know where to put them
Yeah.
in my.
But I think that's the difference, is like your half sister, when she's like, this is my family, like this is my brother, these are my parents.
Right.
Obviously this person is my family, but for you, on the other side of it, as the kid that was adopted, you're like, but that's not my family.
Right.
It was
That, like,
clear
I
for
have
you.
a family.
That's really hard. Like they're not my family. That's my family.
Yeah.
And I felt really just kind of like cut and dry about that. It
Like-
was So that was I think about back on that now, and I wonder every once in a while, how would I feel if I had made a different decision there? But I don't regret it. I don't think it was mean to do. I just honestly, the desire wasn't there to do it, and if I would have done it, it would have, I think, been an empty kind of connection for me anyway, which would have meant it would have felt empty to them too. I think, and disappointing. So I'm okay with it.
That's good.
Let's go back back to your childhood a bit, and how would you describe who you were as a kid? Like, what traits would you use to describe Mike Pilot as a 10-year-old, 12-year-old teenager?
So, if you saw Mike Pilot at 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, I had either a ball in my hand or at my feet or a stick or a club or something, right? And I was all wrapped around athletics. That had just become my thing. And I loved everything sports. I was a 3-sport guy for my whole life, so I was always playing something. I was always on some team. That was where I found my success. I was pretty good, and big fish in a little pond, but I was pretty good and keen as an athlete, and had a lot of success in the sports that I played, and that's where I got my self-esteem and my enjoyment and my identity. That was my thing. I was voted the class athlete in my senior class. So that was like my identity. That's who I was. And as part of that, I was really competitive. That flowed over to my friendships. My best buddy Peter Weller and John Reel. We were on the same kind of academic track. We had all of our classes together, and those two were both better students than me. But we were all in the top 10 in our class, and we used to compete and compete and compete. And I was a little better at English and the humanities, and they were better at math and science. John was just smarter than both of us, but we found energy in that because we'd study together. We'd all try really hard together, and Peter and I would be coming back on the Greyhound bus from a baseball game in Nashua at 10 o'clock at night, and we're studying together in a bus seat.
So, but besides like that peer-to-peer motivation or maybe pressure, like what else do you think motivated you to excel in academics and excel in sports? Was there anybody who influenced you, or where do you think that from within just you, where do you think that came from?
So a couple of different ways to answer that one. I think I definitely had role models. Rick Scott was one for me. Rick he was my high school soccer coach. He was a star on the Keene State College soccer team, and when I was in junior high and high school, the Keene State College soccer team was nationally ranked, and they were awesome. It was like the professional sport in our town of Keene, right? They'd get a couple thousand people to go watch them play on a Saturday, right? It was a big deal. Rick was the star. He was a captain, and so he was like a celebrity. And then he became our high school coach after he had graduated. So I was like, God, Rick Scott, and he was such a powerful figure for all of us who played for him, but particularly me. We're still close today. We hit it off then, and I saw so much about him that I wanted to emulate. He was a strong presence. He was a strong leader. He was really put a lot of value on his relationships with his teammates and his guys, and I liked all of that. I felt pulled to that. I felt motivated by those same things. So he was definitely a role model that I think of when I think about people who influenced my life at that early age. So that's, how old are you when you're a freshman? 14, 13, 14, right? That's when I intersected with Rick after watching him, play in Keene for the 4 or 5 years prior to that. And so he was an early influencer on me there. Another story I think about when I think about things like that question, I remember a day at our house on Old Walpole Road in Keene. And Keene, New Hampshire used to have it still has an airport, but it used to be a commercial airport, and they flew commercial flights in and out of there. And on final approach into the Keene runway would come right over a little ridge line that was maybe a mile or so across the valley from our house, and I could see it, and I could see the planes come in. And I remember one day, I still remember the visual today. I was looking at that plane, and I could see the silhouettes of heads of people in the airplane. And I had never been on an airplane, right? And I saw that, and I just remember thinking, I wonder where they're going, or I wonder where they've been, where they're coming from. And I just remember that moment thinking that I want to see the world. I want to see other stuff, right?
Go.
And so that motivation has always been with me since I can remember certainly through my high school years. I think that um, that fueled part of my academic drive. In addition to just being competitive, I wanted to be a good student because I wanted access to opportunity to create a life that was gonna give me experiences that I hadn't had in Keene, New Hampshire, and wouldn't be able to have in Keene, New Hampshire. And that was a big part of it. I wanted to try to create um, wealth that could also afford other opportunities, and that was part of the academic drive. Those things, they kind of converged when I got out of school and went to work for GE, because that was a place where you really could see the world, where I really started interacting with people from all kinds of different backgrounds, and people who were way, way, way smarter than I was. Like just not, like I'd never met people like this before in anything that I'd ever done, and and that set of things were always the motivating things in my career. Like I didn't so much care about um, getting a bigger job as I did about getting new experiences in my professional life. You know, and I was in 4 different industries, but all with the same company, and that was a big part of the motivating factor. Like, you know, for example, when I went to your favorite job, NBC, not knowing anything about the television business, it was a little intimidating to go in and do this stuff. But it's also exciting and interesting, and when you're learning, and in every conversation you're learning. I used to remember take notes in my meetings of things I didn't understand. And then I had this guy Ed Swindler, who was my right hand guy. He was the finance guy, brilliant man. And I would have a meeting at the end of the day with Ed, and I'd go through my notes of all the shit people said that I didn't understand, and he'd explain to me what.
Can you remember like one of those things where you're like, I have no idea what this thing means? No, okay.
I can't remember.
That's really funny though. So
I
you
had
write
the
down like
same list.
words and phrases, and you're like, I have no idea.
My 2 of my coworkers and I had the same list of just like abbreviated, all of these abbreviations that we didn't understand.
Did you write them down too?
We wrote them down, and then after our meetings, we would go and we would Google them and we would add them to the list.
There you go. There you go.
Or like OS&E, all of these crazy abbreviations that we didn't know.
Yeah.
So it sounds like by the time you're 18, you kind of have a sense of what you want to do in life, based on like how you just answered that last question. Or maybe let me turn this actually into a question. What did you think you wanted to be when you were 18?
So what I just talked about with wanting to see the world and do more, right? That collided with how I thought about what job I might do when I get out of college, because I still didn't really know, you know, and when I kept coming back to, okay, what do you think you really would like to do? I really was pulled toward being a teacher and a coach.
At the age of 18?
Yeah, and through my college years.
Okay.
Yeah. Like that was the thing I kept kind of like, that's probably what I ought to do. That's really probably what I should do.
So that Rick Scott role model was strong for you. And your dad worked his entire career for one single company.
One company.
Okay, so there's a theme we
One
want to
building.
pick. Right, we want to pick up on that when we
2 buildings,
summarize your career.
Yeah. The other influence that I was profound was my friend Howie, who I met my freshman year in college. Howie was from New York, had moved to New Hampshire with his family to go to his last couple of years of high school, and went to UNH. And Howie had a more expansive view of the world and more expansive experiences, being from New York, and he had real ambition and aspirations to, you know, make a lot of money and see a lot of things, and he and I became very, very close. So Howie's view of the world started to inform my personality in a way that I started to share some of those ambitions, and we would talk about them, and we talked about doing things together, like in business together. And when I graduated from college, Howie was a year ahead of me. When I graduated from college, Howie had gone to work for GE, and Howie got me an interview at GE because he was getting promoted, and I ended up getting that job. So that put us on a kind of a parallel actual career path together, and we just fueled off of each other on our professional development and professional experiences. So that was another relationship that had a profound impact, I think, on who I ended up becoming.
You worked for GE for 31 years.
Yeah.
Can you remember one particular thing or a couple of things that you were particularly proud of in your work, in your time with that company?
I can remember a lot. I'll tell this story. So the thing that I took the most gratification from was working with the people, but as a leader and developing people. And I know this is immodest to say, but I was actually good at finding a fit between an individual and their skills and experience and a place in the company in something that I was responsible for. And I was good at picking good people, the right people, putting them in places where they could grow and develop. So that was always something I took great pride in. But there was one day, there was a particular guy, Tim Carvey. You know Tim Carvey, right? Tim was a star in the finance organization in GE, and he had come to be my CFO as I was running the equipment business. So I was later in my career there. This was around 2003 or 4, and Tim came in. He was a little bit junior for the job, but through these next couple of years, we did amazing things as a business, as a group, and Tim became an enormous leader in that group. And it was, I would stretch him to do more, give him more responsibility. I put him in front of the organization in speaking roles, and I put him in front of the senior leadership in our presentations and our report outs and stuff like that. And he just blossomed and became a real star. And 10 years later, maybe a little bit more than that, it was National Bosses Day. And he wrote me a letter.
Oh.
Yeah. And kind of described what it had meant.
Did you
to
work
him.
there still?
It was my last year there. So 2014 probably is what it was, yeah. And he wrote me a letter and said, every year on National Bosses Day, they say to think about your favorite boss, and I think of you. And then he wrote wrote some stuff about why, and that was the kind of thing that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Meant a lot to me coming from that particular guy, but I got a lot of that.
Nice.
From people I worked with. I know those were good memories.
So why did you end up staying? Because I know you always say that you thought that you wanted to be a teacher. Why did you end up staying in business?
I said to somebody just recently, when I got out of school, I knew that there were two things that I didn't want to do, right? I didn't want to work for a big company ever, because I just didn't think I had the, kind of the makeup, the personality to want to do that. And I definitely wasn't going to stay with one company for my whole career, one thing for my whole career. So I ended up, working for GE, the biggest company on the planet, for 31 years. But what kept me there, so in addition to being around these just amazing colleagues, amazing people, so smart and gifted and broad experience, that I got to do 4 different careers in one company. I was in heavy manufacturing, I was in network television, I was in finance, and I was in investment or information technology. IT when the internet hit the scene, network television when Google hit the scene, and the iPhone hit the scene, and broadband internet hit the scene. It was, and when I started with the company, it was in GE Capital, the finance business. That was in 1984. That was at a time when President Reagan had just deregulated the financial services business, and there was just explosive growth and activity in the banking industry, finance industry, and so we all benefited from that because there was so much going on. We didn't have enough good people to take all the big jobs that we were creating by doing new things. So us younger guys got pulled into jobs way before we should have, and it was like sink or swim. And so that was exciting and invigorating, and you always felt like you were learning something. And just when you'd get comfortable, okay, I'm on top of this now, I've got this job nailed, you would get pulled to do something else and start all over again. That kept me motivated.
What's a moment you can remember when you learned something the hard way, or it has stuck with you of like a leadership moment, or
This was in the business in Maryland, just before you were born, Lindsay. This was when I got kind of on Jack Welch's radar screen, and he put
Who's
me
Jack
on-
Welch?
Jack Welch was the CEO of GE. He was like a Steve Jobs profile guy. He was the rock star CEO on the planet Earth. He was he was a rock star, and he was really good. And, he believed that you take your best people and you move them all around our big company so they get different experiences and they learn how to manage things and they learn how to adapt and all that. He was very big on that. That philosophy is not really as prevalent now, but that was Jack. So he took me out of GE Capital and put me into GE Information Services, which was the business in Rockville. This was the one that had basically what AOL had, but on our private networks as the internet was coming to be. And I got into that business, and you know how good I am with technology, right? And I was way over my head. I had no idea what I was doing. But the marching orders were take the sales leadership stuff that you have done so well at GE Capital and do it here, because this is a sleepy sales force and they're not really getting it done. And what I didn't understand for a long time, for too long, is that it wasn't that these guys weren't trying or doing their jobs, it's that their market was falling away right under their feet because technology was just stealing their customers away, right? And I was like rigorous on my Monday morning meetings and my reports and my call reports and all stuff for the whole organization. I was really trying to be a disciplinarian. I thought, okay, they're just not getting it, so I just got to whack them harder. And so I, kept going. And this lasted for about, I don't know, the first 7 or 8 months. And we used to do this thing called a manager assimilation at GE, where your head of HR would sit with the manager and your direct reports, and they'd say, okay, what do you want to know about Mike? What do you want Mike to know about you? And it was just sort of a way to get connected after you had some time together. And I invited my direct reports and then the next level down, and because I really was like, this isn't working. And so we did this session. It was about, I don't know, hour and a half or so, where, what do you want to know about Mike? What do you want Mike to know about you? And then the HR leader does a private session with your team. Says, okay, now what do you want Mike to know? And so this is supposed to take like a half an hour. They were like 3 hours.
Uh-oh. They had some things to say.
And so and this guy, the HR leader, like, I get along really well with him, and he was like one of the people who was always able to be really candid and straightforward. And so he comes to my office. He goes, okay, opens up his notebook. He goes, so. They hate you. I said, what? So, what do you mean? I'm Mike Pilot. They can't hate me. They hate you. And that exercise, then, we got into, like, you don't understand the plight they're in, and you're not making the effort to. And you're painting them with the same brush, all of them, and you're not getting into the game with them. And I was 36 or so, you're 35 or 6 years old. I had only had success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But I had only been in the finance industry
Okay.
also, right? It's my first time moving over. And that was a huge wake-up call. And it also was, like, that was a turning point for me in that team. Because it somehow gave me the freedom that, okay, you don't have to be the hard ass. Because I didn't want to let up the pressure on them, because I needed to drive
They needed
their
to hit the
performance,
goals. Yeah.
right? But, and I didn't know how to let up on the pressure, but this gave us a chance to do it. And it opened up a dialogue where I actually got into a headset that said, okay, I need to learn what you're going through. And so that genuine interest really resonated with the team. And then I actually did learn what was going on. And so we developed some of the best relationships that I had throughout my career in in that business. David Levine was,
Yes. Yeah.
was one of those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
But I mean, didn't it turn out that GE had kind of missed the boat
100%.
anyway? So I mean, you guys were holding on to
100%.
an industry that had already
100%.
the train was already
100%.
on another continent practically.
100%.
So there's that was
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah. But still, to be a leader of a team in that kind of environment, you need to have some empathy, right? And I just didn't. And that moment that I remember was, as painful as that was probably one of my most valuable developmental experiences as a professional, was going through that.
But what I hear from that is you didn't tack out. You didn't say, "I'm out of here." You rolled up your sleeves and you stuck it out with your team.
Yeah.
And from that, would they have given you a different evaluation
Very much
months
so.
later?
Ask
Yeah.
David Levine.
Oh, right. David would tell us. Yeah.
It turned into be a really nice next few years together.
Nice.
And we sold that company. GE sold that company. I was part of the team that did the roadshow and took it out to investors, and that was all in the QT, right? The invoice now. And then when we, as we're going through that process, we're all realizing, okay, we're not going to work for GE anymore. And I was like, I came to do this job because Jack sent me over here, but I don't care about this industry. I don't want to be in this my whole life, and I don't want to leave GE. I had a really good thing going, and so we go all the way to the end of this thing, and like 2 days before we closed on the deal, Jeff Immelt now had become the CEO, and he called down to my boss, Harvey Seegers, and said, hey, we're keeping Pilot. He's not going with the deal. And Harvey called me to his office and told me Harvey was pissed off because he didn't want to go either. He wanted to stay at GE. And he said, you got the life raft. and so I was able to stay at GE, and Jeff took me out of that job, and that's when I became an officer of the company, was in that next move.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's want to shift gears and talk about family in the midst of working for
Sure.
corporate America. Yeah.
Well, I think we should say, so you're adopted, my mom is adopted, and then you guys decided to adopt my little brother.
Mm-hmm.
Did you always know, when you guys first started dating, when you first got married, did you always know that you wanted to adopt a kid?
Yeah.
Did you know that independently of her, or was it like when you guys came together you decided?
So I never thought about that until we were married and thinking about having
kids.
a family. Yeah, and as we were, in those last couple of years before we got married, we had talked about it, and we always kind of both knew we wanted to do that. We both felt so lucky in the life that we were given that we wanted to give that opportunity to another little human. And so that was always, we were always of the same mind like that.
What has been your hardest moment as a father? Don't cry.
No, I know what it is though.
Okay, you can say it.
Hmm?
You can say it.
It was when we had to tell you and Patrick that we were getting divorced.
The first time.
And there was another one that's like, that really stung. It was less hard, but it stung. I don't know if you remember this. You were there. We were in a therapist's office, you and me and Mom, and the therapist asked you. You had said some things that were like,
I hate you.
I don't like him. I really don't.
I think you like each other now. It's
I
really
really
nice to
don't.
see.
And she said, well, you must have some good times with your father. Like, what are some of your favorite times with your father? He said, I don't have any.
I said that?
And that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to hear in my life. You asked. Right?
But so let's connect it back to, being in the role that you were in corporate America, incredibly demanding. You would work on average 60, 70,
Yeah, and I was gone all the time.
and gone all the time.
Yeah.
But you were, you were driven to provide for your family, but you very much still wanted to be a father. Can you talk to us about what that felt like on a regular basis for you when you were working?
Yeah, so as I was coming up in the company, somebody senior once said to me, if you're going to pick this path, the company takes everything you have in terms of energy and bandwidth. So, it doesn't happen like that. It happens slowly over time. But you wake up one day and you say, "Oh my God, right? Where did my life go? And how did I end up?"
And it did.
Right. And that exact thing happened to me.
Mm.
And if I had it to do over again, knowing what I know now, I would have done it differently.
Mm-hmm.
I would have done it differently. I would not have stayed with that company. I would not be as motivated as I was to do the next job. I would have more confidence in myself that I could be in another environment and get to the same kind of place, but create more bandwidth for to be a more present and better member of the family, father, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things you've mentioned before that's so interesting is you really helped women find leadership and executive level roles in GE, and you had a real appreciation for that the demands on a woman are a little different than men, and they might personally drive those too, that they feel the need to have a role as a mother in a more significant way. But I remember you talking about that and the appreciation you've shared that women have expressed to you.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw it for the female executives, but yet in maybe it was just like a cultural thing. Men maybe weren't given as much space maybe in that time frame, or I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I like at that company. It was a merit-based company, and we had so many of our most talented people were women, right? And it was a real thing that if they chose to have a family, they kind of took themselves off the track, and then it was hard to get back on because they missed a promotion or two, and then all of a sudden they're back ready to put full bandwidth into their job again, and they've missed 4 years of development in their kind of stuff, right? That would happen, and I saw that. We saw that. We talked about it, and we tried to do things to avoid that. One of the things that I really am proud of that we did at NBC, we had 2 young women who were both had chosen to start their family at the same time, and they were star salespeople, and that sales job was a full-time job, and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna resign because we really want to be mothers, and we can't do this job because I want to be home with my child, and probably want to have a couple kids, and so I'm just going to tack out, maybe come back in later on down the road." And so I created a job where the 2 of them did one job, and so we took their account lists and we put them together because they had major important accounts. We put them together, and the 2 of them had an account list that was twice as big, but they'd each work 3 days one week, 2 days the next, and they would alternate, and they'd work a full week between them in one job.
Mm-hmm.
And we took some of their work with some of their accounts and we moved them to other people, but we gave them a real job that was a half a job, and they still did the work of 2 people, right? They crushed it, but they were able to stay in there. They were able to stay connected with their clients. They were able to stay connected with the industry and where it was going and be a part of it. And both of them came out of that and became managers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good thing.
Yeah, sounds like it was a success.
I think they still do it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are a father of an adopted child, a biological child, and you're a stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
What do you enjoy about fatherhood today, now that you're not working, but maybe just in and of itself? Where do you find pleasure in parenting?
Well, I'll offer this. I like my life now more than I have at any point in my life. feel a little guilty saying, but it's true. Um, Being here and present while Aiden and Ella grew up, I had a very different role in that than I did with you. You know, and I really enjoyed it, and um, I drew real reward and satisfaction from being part of that and being part of them. Um, the other thing that I really love is as you've gotten to adult age and they're getting to adult age, the way you turn into cool adults that are just like um, just really nice to have you guys as friends. You know, like you guys are really great to be around. It's that's probably the thing I enjoy most about the role of father is to have adult or adult-ish children that I love and respect as much as I do you guys, because I think you're all really, really good, neat people, and just great to be around you. You know, when you, and we've talked about this, when you come here, like that's happy days. That's happy days. It's really happy days for me. Like you're just great to have around. You know, sitting there this afternoon learning that I'm 78% Irish. We did our 23.
Oh, you did. Oh, the 23 and me reveal happened.
So
And mine updated.
Okay. Yeah.
Once I did it.
Yeah.
But what have you learned? Either what did you learn, and how did you change when you became a father, or since being a father to me, Patrick, 2 stepkids, and also I would kind of say Kaylee, my cousin. I think you kind of stepped into a fatherly role with her.
I think that's probably right.
Like how have you changed as a person?
I think I've changed in my role as a father when my life circumstances changed and I was not doing that job anymore. I think that was where I started to become different as a father or a father figure, because I was more interested in what was going on. I was more had more bandwidth to share in what was going on. And right at that time is when you and I got most estranged, and that was really hurtful for me. Like the whole thing had been hurtful for you, right? And it was always like this huge void in my otherwise just really happy life that you and I were connected, and I didn't know what to do about that. You know, I fumbled around and tried to fix it, and it wasn't going to happen unless you wanted it to, you know, and so I took the posture of, okay, just play the long game. You know, I am here, and I will always be here. And if you find a way to, you know, get to a place where you'd like to try to put a relationship back together, because you and I were great when you were a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
We were great when you were a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
You say you don't have any good memories, but you do. Like there is something about having a biological child that is just amazing for me. And having you come back, or not come back, but having you open your sensibility to being okay with a relationship with me again, and then seeing what that's become and feeling what that's become, it's just it's just a highlight. It's just like such a great thing for me that has happened.
So I think if there's one thing we hope to achieve in some of our podcasting work here, it's to let our story carry to other blended families. You know, that give it time, give it space, have hope.
Let them be mad.
Yeah, let them go through that.
Let it out.
What did you said recently? Like that's when I was having You
So
were
when
in
I
a
was
bad
in my mood.
in my mood. You said
Did
something
I
like
say
that.
that?
Yeah.
You said that to me. You were telling the story, and you were telling it to somebody else, but you and I were together. You were telling it to somebody else, and it was about a time. I think it was you were telling about when you came to the beach one time, and you were being messy. You go. You're telling the story. And you look at me. You remember that's when I was in my mood.
Well, you shouldn't have put me in my mood then.
So, who was your very first best friend?
Alex Pitsis.
Alex Pitsis.
Alex
I love that everyone is first and last name.
I know.
Pitsis.
Their kids are gonna see this and be like, "What the hell? Who is this guy?"
But you're not. I don't hear you talk about Alex. So
Alex, he and I were in the same kindergarten class, and our mothers came. Moms used to come to school on the first day of kindergarten with the kids, and our mothers introduced us, and we found out that we lived in the same neighborhood, and we just became friends. And then he was my best friend probably until third grade or fourth grade. He got left back.
oh,
Yeah, and so then I went forward. But then we were in high school together. We played on the soccer team together, and he's always been a friend. But he was my first best friend. We used to like, God, I still have memories of ride our bikes all over the place. And we're getting lost in the woods and discovering these old abandoned, locked up cottages in the woods with no road to them, in or out. And we break the window panes and get in and find old records in there and all this stuff. We had some fun times.
good memories.
Yeah.
So you've talked about childhood friendships, high school friendships, college friendships. We know you have many from GE work related over the
Right.
course of it. How have they changed over the course of your life?
How have friendships changed?
Or maybe how you view friendships? How has that changed for you? Has it changed? I don't know.
I guess the way that I had friendships before I met you, before we had the life that we have now, the friendships were a much larger draw for me, and like everywhere we lived, I would collect one or two friends that I stayed close with,
Mm-hmm.
even to this day. Dan Murphy's a great example of that, right? But they like, I think my friends is where I spent a lot of my emotional time and my emotional bandwidth when I wasn't working, probably at the expense of home, but that was where I drew my connection from, and it's not that way anymore. It's not that way to the same degree. I still value the friendships. I still have
Many
most, if not
friends.
many if not most of them, but they're not as important a variable in my life today as they were.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are, and that's a pretty profound change actually in how I'm going through the world at this moment versus how I was going through the world 15 years ago.
Yeah, because that shift happened when you were in your 50s, right?
Yeah.
So, are there values or qualities of a friend that matter to you, that have always mattered, or are there some that matter more today? Like what makes a good friend?
Oh, I think the through line on that one is loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
The people who are true friends, they're friends independent of circumstances and where and how they might change. And circumstances ranging from, we used to live in the same town and now we live on opposite sides of the country, or an event happens and there's a disagreement or something like that, but the loyalty to the friend, or a friend comes under a challenge, like some of the things that you've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
The true friend stands with you and stays with you, and that's all of my close friendships have had that element very, very strongly. I'd say that's probably the most important thing. Commonality of interests is a thing, but it's way less important than the loyalty.
Yeah. You were gonna go see Howie. next week? You guys have not been distant, but just not as
So there's a good
connected.
example. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing Howie next week.
Yeah.
Right? And he's somebody who, like, we live on literally opposite sides of the country now, and there was a time in my life where he was the closest person in my life, closest person to me,
And your roommate.
and my roommate for a lot of years, right? 3 years in college, and then almost 5 years after college, we lived together, and we were tight. We were like brothers, and as circumstances change, then your life gets filled up by other things, and that certainly happened to us. We worked for the same company for a long time, so we were in proximity here and there. Had common ties and stuff, so that kept us together. But I haven't seen him in, I think, 2 years, and I don't talk to him that often anymore. But when I see him,
It's normal.
It'll be like it.
you
like
just
it
pick right
always
back
was.
up. Yeah.
I had the same experience with Tim Linehan last fall
Mm-hmm.
on our hunting trip. Tim was my college teammate who is an outfitter out in Montana. I went out for a week of deer hunting with him, and that's the third time I've seen him in the last few years. But I hadn't seen him in 20 years before that. And when I see Tim, it's just like we're 19 years old again.
Yeah.
Back on the soccer field at UNH, yeah, and it has never changed, and that's that. There's something about friendships that are developed in your real formative years, like your college years, and people say your college friends, you do so much growing in college, and when the people you do that with, somehow, at least I found, I think it's true of a lot of people, you stay bonded with them in a really special way, and that's been true for me. My college friends are probably certainly my longest and closest friends.
I remember when I was little, you would always, I think that I was having a fight with someone in like elementary school or something, or we weren't friends anymore. And you told me your elementary school friends will just become acquaintances. Like you won't really know them. Your high school friends will become good friends, and your college friends will become your best friends.
Right.
I remember you telling me that when I was like 10 probably.
Yeah.
And I feel like at least
That's how it works out, generally, right? That's how it works out. Yeah. I think it's a function of, and people who are in the military together as young people, like they have the same kind of bonding experiences when you're going through that transition from childhood to adulthood. That you're changing so much, and the bonds that you form with the people you're going through that change with are so strong that they just last, right?
So you are one of the most curious individuals I've ever known in my life, and you pursue your curiosity. But what are you currently most curious about?
So I've got my hobbies that I like.
You want to list them out for our listeners?
Well, so for 30 years it was golf, and that was what I did. And then when I retired, I always thought that I'd have a place where I'd just be able to go and play golf, and then that's what I would do. And then I retired and found out that was boring. Like I just didn't want to play golf.
well, golf was also a big business thing.
It
I
was,
think.
Lindsay. That's right. That is absolutely right. And so
Like
I was
you were always on meetings on the golf course.
Right.
Doing
That
the
was
biz.
like how you made
Yeah.
connections.
And we do customer entertainment playing golf. And absolutely. So that was a big part of it too. That's why I learned how to play golf, was for business.
And that's still today, like guys my age have to learn how to play golf almost because
But
they
it's-
have to go out on these.
But it's a real thing. It's
Yeah.
interesting. When you play one round of golf with someone, you know more about them and they know more about you after that one round of golf than if you spent 2 years, once a quarter, traveling to their city and taking them out for a 4-hour dinner. It just works out that way, right? It's you see them doing a thing that is challenging and frustrating, and you see how they react to that. You get 4 hours of bonding, doing something that you're enjoying together, and you feel where there's chemistry, where there's not, where you walk away from that experience and say, okay, that I know that human being better than I did 4 hours ago by a lot.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's such a it's such a male thing though. Like, what's the female equivalent?
Yeah. I don't know.
We've talked about that before. He's like, yeah, what do you guys do? I'm like, oh, we go to, you can go on a travel trip, and you can do some yoga and some hiking and then shopping and eating and spa.
Yeah, but that's not like the same.
Yeah, it's true. It's a really, I don't know.
But also, guys are so like
Easily
easy.
entertained.
Yeah. And like easy, like the way that you react to not getting your ball in the hole is the same way that you're gonna react to anything else in your life. Like I feel like for women, it's like getting your nails done. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you know when the nail lady will be like, when you ask for something and she's like, no. I'm not doing that.
All right, some big life questions. What are you most hopeful for in our world today, and what are you most concerned about?
I'm hopeful that this AI revolution we're going through eliminates poverty and hunger in the world. I think that's possible,
Wow.
and I hope that that happens, right? And I think if that did, a lot of the things that cause geopolitical pressure and conflict go away. You know, where we kind of eliminate the haves and the have-nots by having everybody has their baseline, what they need to be healthy and comfortable and safe, right? If we could get that for everybody, I think it would be a really different world. You still have some of the same craziness, but if you get everybody to a baseline of healthy, not hungry, and safe, I think that'd be really cool. I think the technology could do it. Hopefully we'll see it in our lifetimes. I think there's a real chance that we could.
And what are you most concerned about?
I'm concerned on a couple of different ones. One is you know, the stuff that's going on in our kind of foreign policy with our current administration. I think we're setting ourselves up as a nation to be a pariah, and we're letting
What's a pariah?
someone who is shunned by the rest. So that's, and we'll see how that plays out. I'd like to think that that'll course correct, you know, when we have a change in leadership, and just like we got too tired of the woke stuff, we're gonna get too tired of this stuff, and things come back to the middle. I hope, but on a more kind of closer level, I really feel like this technology revolution that you've gone through in your generation, I think it's unhealthy. I think it's taken away a lot of the sort of essential, beautiful human qualities from the human existence. You know, and the skills, the traits that you develop as a fully engaged social human being that has a curiosity for things like history and a curiosity for things like you know, who is this other person in this conversation really, you know, and has the attention span to absorb information that way, has the curiosity to seek information that way. I think we've lost a lot of that, and I think it's incumbent on our survival as a species to get that back. Otherwise, I think this technology we just talked about has a chance to drag us into a really awful place. That's if I'm getting really kind of, you know.
That's kind of what we want the point of the podcast to be. Like, who is this person really?
Right.
Obviously, it'll be through technology that people will consume it, but
that's the point, right? That's exactly the point, Lindsay. Right? That it's technology is enabling us to do things, but we got to be doing the right things, right? We've got to have a recommitment back to like what you guys are doing here. You know, the it's what I really admire about both of you, that you have curiosity and you have like a doer nature to do things, right? And I think the way you're approaching this project here, that's what I'm talking about. More of this kind of thing where you're opening your mind to go deep, right? Spend 2 hours looking at another human being in eye to eye and asking questions.
And I think that's probably the biggest lesson that you've taught me. I remember being even 5 years old, even when we would go out to dinner, he always knew our server's name. Anyone that came to the table that worked at the restaurant, he knew their name. Like, you always made a point to get to know people. if we went into certain stores, you knew those people's names. At like your golf shops, you knew everybody. And I feel like that's something that even when we weren't on the best terms for years, I still like carried that with me. And even my friends will say, I'm so annoying because every restaurant, every dinner that I'm at, I'm like, what's your name to the server? And I love talking to people and getting to know people and like, who are you really?
Right. You definitely have that trait.
Yeah.
You definitely do.
And I think that that's one of the biggest things that you've taught me. But I have another question. So
you can say something else nice to me if you want. That'd be fine.
No, that's not it. Obviously, in the political climate, everything is so divided right now. So for my generation and for a young person, because I feel like a lot of my friends have either only heard what their parents listen to and what their parents tell them, or everything is just so one way or the other that they just kind of get overwhelmed and don't know what to consume and what's real. So how would you advise someone in my generation to navigate the political climate and like world issues today?
So I would say the thing that jumps to my mind is read.
But how do they know what to read?
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Right, so however you approach this task, right, the trap that the social media algorithms are pulling us into is that we get fed content, whether it's news or entertainment or fashion or food or whatever, that that we like, that we agree with. That's and
that's the algorithm.
That's in this algorithm world. That's what we're getting pulled to. So. If you really genuinely want to understand a broader perspective, you need to seek out sources of information that can offer that to you. So an example of what I do, I read the New York Times, as left can be, and the Washington Post, left as left can be, the Wall Street Journal, and the New York Post. Right. Watch MSNBC and Fox News. Right. Look for you have different media. You don't read newspapers. You don't watch television. Right? But of the stuff that you do, right. Listen to
Candace Owens and
not her so much.
She is crazy. But like a right-leaning influencer.
That movement, right? So Charlie Kirk's movement, Candace Owens came through that, right? Listen to that, right? Get their perspectives. Podcasts are a great way to, I think, go deep with people, and for like that's what you guys are doing. But there are people who do that really well, that get really interesting, like global thinkers that offer perspectives that are really great. But you got to listen for a couple hours to get the benefit of it, right? So
on both sides, and then make your own opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think about people that say, like people over the age of 18 that are like, I don't really get involved in politics. I don't care.
I think that's the apathy that we were talking about, right? Like I don't have the curiosity, I don't have the inclination to be involved enough to want to make a difference, or even to know how to make a difference, right? That's where your generation has been relegated to by this technology and by the 140 character Twitter soundbite, by the 32-second Instagram reel, right? It's an existence of no attention span, no curiosity. You're just kind of consuming stuff that's being fed to you.
And like taking everything at face value.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, let's do some of our rapid fire.
This is a lot of pressure. I can't think.
These are short answers, so don't get crazy. We have to be out of here soon. Okay, these are easy. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning or night?
Morning.
City or quiet?
Quiet.
Ocean or mountains?
Mountains.
A simple joy?
What's a simple joy of mine? Being outdoors, being in nature.
A fear you've made peace with?
I was afraid of you for a long time.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And you're still afraid, but you've made peace with
I
it.
am afraid of you, but I've got that more under control.
A habit you're proud of?
Reading.
First car?
Ford Fiesta. It was red.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favorite decade?
The 2020s.
Favorite song of all time?
Just reflexively, it goes to Annie's song, John Denver. I've got a bunch, but that's one that just like that was what first came to mind.
Wow.
So,
Okay. I guessed a different one for you.
What'd you guess?
One of your
Songs of Swing?
no,
That's
That
one of
reminds
your
me.
one of your high school dance songs like Bread. Baby, Emma wants you.
Well, Annie's song was kind of one of those, right? That was
Yeah.
a little before that, I guess.
Favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving.
Really? That's my least favorite.
And Lindsay's birthday.
You missed a lot of those. You forgot it last year. Favorite meal growing up?
Edit that out. You know what it was? It was Chef Boyardee pizza that my mother would make. I loved it.
No
I
kidding.
Yep.
didn't even know they made pizza.
Oh, it was like it would come in a box, and it would have the dough mix and the cheese and the tomato sauce. It would come in a yellow box, and she would make it, and it was awesome. I loved it.
I remember that now.
Do you?
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yes.
Favorite place you've ever traveled? And then maybe before you answer, the next one is favorite trip you've ever taken. Because I think place and trips are different.
Okay. I'm gonna say my favorite place I've ever traveled is Egypt.
When a guy tried to bargain with him, camels for my mom.
What? He wanted
We
he
were
wanted
in the-
Yvonne and
in the bazaar, and he wanted Yvonne.
And he
Yeah.
offered to trade him like 3 camels.
No,
Oh.
he said, "I'll give you 1,000,000 camels or $2 million
for your wife.
for your wife."
Oh my goodness.
And I said, "How much do camels go for?"
Oh.
And it was on that same trip where we were going under the Great Pyramid of Giza, and you go down the stairway out into the belly of the pyramid, and they had guides that would take you, and you'd go down like kind of 2 at a time. So Yvonne and I were going in, and this guy grabbed her and pulled her down out of my sight. Whew, they were gone. And I was like, "What is happening?" So I'm scooting down as fast as I can to catch up to him. It was fine. It was nothing, but I was like, "What is going on here?" I mean, there were people all around and everything, but we were the only ones in that little tunnel. And I was like scared for a minute that he was going to do something to her.
Okay, a few more rounds here with the wife. One word people would use to describe you.
Fiery,
One word you would use to describe yourself.
lovable.
Let's be serious.
Okay, serious.
Well, I'll agree with that. You're both.
Handsome? You want me to offer that?
Yes.
Yeah.
What matters more?
My mother said I'm
Oh.
handsome. Did you know that?
She told you you were special.
But she just recently,
She said you're finally handsome
I
again.
had lost all this weight, and she
Oh.
goes, "You look handsome, like you used to." I said, "Mom."
Gotta love the moms bringing out the truth. What matters more now than it used to?
My family.
What matters less now than it used to?
Anything that has to do with work.
What makes a good life?
Relationships and family.
What makes a good person?
Loyalty. Loyalty.
Loyalty. What is your secret to resiliency?
That would imply that I'm resilient.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to just that competitive, don't want to get beat
Okay.
by things or people.
What brings you the most peace in life?
I guess it still is doing physical things like riding that motorcycle or shooting, like the act of, like it brings me, like it really brings me joy to do those things that you can, playing golf can constantly get better at. I don't know if that's the most joy I feel, but you know, I just think about when I've got a spare moment or spare time, where do I gravitate toward? I still gravitate toward stuff like that. It's weird actually to me, I think.
Hobbies.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite piece of advice someone's given you?
Yes. This is from the working world. before I took my first management job, the guy who was promoting me said, "You're gonna, if you have the career I think you're gonna have, you're gonna interview and hire hundreds, if not thousands, of people, and most of them in the interview, you're gonna feel pulled to, make it seem like it's okay." And he goes, if anything feels off, cut and run, because it won't be okay, because there's going to be so many times where everything feels perfect and you're going to hire that person, it's not going to work out. No truer advice was ever given to me than that. I don't know if that's the best advice I ever got, but there was nothing truer ever said to me.
Do you have a favorite piece of advice to give to people?
Probably.
What's one thing you're still working on?
You'll probably say I'm not genuinely working on it, but I think I am trying to, is being more, I don't know what the word, patient, accommodating, less rigid or demanding of people in my family, people around me.
Good.
I was gonna say that
I'm
for
happy.
him.
Yeah.
You were?
Right.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you said you believe that I'm doing that, or that's the answer that you would offer that I should?
That's the answer I would suggest to you.
So keep at it. Good job.
The consistency in our relationship is something I really value.
Yeah. One thing you hope Lindsay always knows.
That she's the most special thing that ever happened to me in my life, and I am always right here.
One word for this chapter of your life.
Happiness.
Nice. And what are you most proud of?
So a couple different directions to answer that. So I'll say what I'm most proud of about myself. So
Because he's special.
I think, I believe that I genuinely have a good heart. I do. Not always the best at showing that, but even times where I can be edgy or growly or something like that, things I feel inside aren't always the things that I show outside. But I don't think I have.
Bad intentions.
I mean, sometimes I have bad intentions when people disturb me, but for people that I love and that I care about and who are important to me, I think I'm a pretty loyal, consistently there, good human being.
I agree. Anything we should have asked you that you wished we
Probably.
would have?